You are listening to The Counselor's Chair, a podcast where we explore all things human, mental health, psychology, philosophy, and a few extras. We are excited you're with us for this episode as we talk about the ins and outs of friendship. Be sure to check us out on all forms of social media and visit our YouTube channel at The Counselor's Chair. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast. Hey everyone, Josh Zello here. We're very excited to have our first guest on the show. Charlie Mizer joined us for an hour-and-a-half long interview on the topic of friendship. Charlie is the president of EastWest Digital Marketing, successful entrepreneur and close friend to both Andrew and myself. Charlie has centered his life around establishing good friendships, forming healthy relationships, and providing solid foundation for business relationships. He's also a devout family man, and I have personally witnessed his deep care for his family. You will hear some awesome ideas today, and you can take heart in knowing that Charlie lives out what he talks about. If you don't know Charlie, you should make time to meet with him. Now, on to the episode. Andrew, you want to talk a little bit about what we'll be touching on today?
Yeah, so we threw out the idea of doing a podcast on friendship. And one of the things we wanted to emphasize was how friendship helps you grow as an individual, how friendships help you move forward in life in a positive direction, hopefully. So that's just kind of some of the stuff that we want to touch base on today, how to navigate healthy friendships, things to look for in maybe avoiding to avoid obviously some relational pain, how to not get trapped in some cycles of just negative interactions with people. But I think most of this podcast is going to be on a positive note of how does delving into healthy relationships and companionship, maybe even like tribe culture, help you move forward in life, to empower you to be the best person you can be, to invest in other people and have them invest in you. So yeah, those are just kind of the things I was thinking about for today.
Oh, good deal. And I guess without further ado, we'll get started. Just a question to throw out there to you, Andrew, and Charlie. From you guys' perspective, and I'll chime in as well. But from your perspectives, what are the marks of a healthy or good friendship?
Well, I guess I can start there and chime in. I think transparency means a lot to people. When you talk about having somebody that you can be honest with and not feel like there's going to be a lot of reverb from that. People are obviously a conduit. You talk about tribe culture and feeling like you belong, and I think that's important, being able to go somewhere and feel like you belong. Yeah. Whether it's being friends with a group of people or your tribe, or having an individual that is not going to judge you, and you can be transparent with and go to with anything, and the worst stuff, and the first person you call with the best stuff too. Yeah. I think in a friendship, we've maybe all had a friend who every time you hear from them, you get some anxiety because that communication is going to be something's not going good. I think that's tough to build a friendship on. But I think when you have somebody that, occasionally calls you with some good news, it's not a braggadocious or, something that, I can call Andrew anytime with anything and say, hey man, listen to what happened today. And I can brag and not feel like, and feel safe doing that. And having somebody you can share the successes with and the good things and the good times, as well as knowing, okay, I've shared enough good things with this person that when something's not going so great, I can open up about that too, and I'm not going to be judged. Yeah. Judgment's dangerous, but
yeah, man.
Sure.
Right, so like an openness and a vulnerability, and also somebody who's going to be willing to celebrate your victories with you, right?
That's right.
They're going to be on your team. Yeah.
Sure. When somebody's going to be happy for you when you're successful, that's huge, because I think it's fair to say with any amount of success or any amount of victories, there's going to be people on the other side of that in a lot of cases that don't want to celebrate with you.
Yeah.
You win a lot. It's kind of hard to find people that feel sorry for you. So having people that are going to be happy for you when you're successful and can share in that, and you're happy for them when they're successful genuinely, and taking a genuine interest in your friends, listening and being on that end of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we probably all had friends or just relationships in general that, maybe you're sharing something that you want celebrated, or just want to connect on, want somebody to hear about and be excited for you. And sometimes that conversation turns into maybe a one-up. Every once in a while that'll happen. It's like, oh yeah, well I did this today, right? It's like, oh, good, it's good. But I think you're really hitting on something there with the mark of a good friendship is like somebody who's invested in your success. Yeah,
sure.
Not going to flip the script, trying to one-up you as well.
Yeah, and that's sometimes, we've all caught ourselves doing that. I think.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Or held back from doing that and realized or had the awareness to think, oh yeah, that's great, and cognitively just celebrate that person instead of chiming in with a one-up. In a friendship or a circle of friends, you don't want your nickname to be Google. You don't want to be that guy who everybody's like, okay, well, let's not brag too much because Google's here and we're gonna one-up everybody.
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you, man. Andrew, what about you, man?
Yeah, so I actually took some notes, and I have a very similar opinion on it. I mean, throughout the lifespan, we're going to have different phases, right? I mean, there's going to be different cycles, and we've already done a podcast on depression, so we know that can be a thing in a person's life, and certainly the piece of celebrating each other's successes, right? I mean, that's awesome, with no judgment, without envy, and without jealousy, right? To just genuinely be present and just be like, hey man, that's awesome, and like really celebrate that. And I think even asking questions is like, okay, so like what's next? Even taking a step farther and helping. It's like, hey, like that's great. Like you've come this far. Like what are you thinking about the next chapter? To help even move them forward even more. But also I was thinking about, even the darker seasons. So if somebody is going through some relational issues or depression or what have you, to even take the time to grieve with that person, to not try to step in and fix their problems, but to just simply, be present with them, just to listen, I think that's probably the greatest gift you can give anybody in success, grief, loss, failure, to just kind of listen to their process. And, as in companionship, I think that's, if you're doing that well, if you're listening before you're speaking, then you're probably doing all right.
Mm-hmm. Nice, fellas. Yeah, I think, man, that covers a good bit of it as far as like about how you want your friends to support you, how you also want to support your friends, right? Sure. I know I focused more on Charlie, in reflection of yours, I focused more on the celebration of success, but you also mentioned precisely what Andrew mentioned as far as being able to tell somebody, hey, this is how things aren't going so well. And so it's definitely an important component. I think when I think about that question and kind of integrate what both of you guys said, there's an aspect of trust with that, right? I think trust in friendships is really important to me, particularly. It's what I'm looking for with my friendships. And I think that's that character quality behind both of those, being willing to share what's going on in your life and knowing you're going to get a non-judgmental and empathetic response, while also not having that leveraged against you at some point as well, or used against you. Someone that also is thinking about, maybe if you're in a low point, like, well, how's that affecting his family? Maybe I can help out in some way. Somebody who's going to offer to help usually trusting people are really good about seeing those types of things and ways that they can help and plug in those times. And then also trust is involved in that uptick of friendship as well too, right? You can trust this person with the successes in your life and know, they're going to contend with their jealousy, they're going to contend with their envy because they actually care about me more than trying to be more successful than me, right? So I think, man, you guys hit the nail on the head with that.
And with those, celebrating success versus helping someone cope with a hard time, I think going through success by yourself or with your family and not being able to share is, you want to be able to share that with your friends, but I think you can make it through it probably if you don't have someone that you can just lean on there. But going through the valleys and troughs by yourself, I think is tougher. So when it comes to being a good friend and you come across that opportunity to help someone who is having to go through something, I think that's where the friendship can really be solidified and bonded when you go the extra mile to put yourself aside and be there for somebody when they're going through the tough times. That's how I think that's can be the building blocks to being able to celebrate together on times. This guy's here for me when I was down. Now that things are going good, it feels that much better. So I mean, it goes hand in hand.
Absolutely, man. Like that relationship gets sort of forged in the fire of the difficulty, right? It's strengthened, it's sharpened, it's all those good things, all those good things.
I would say even the friendship bond can probably even be increased. Like I suppose the bond in itself can deepen. In the face of adversity, if somebody's like dealing with something and you can kind of reflect back and feel heard, feel understood, feel like you're not alone. It's almost like making a positive investment in a bank, right? You call somebody late at night, not able to sleep, and and that person's there to listen to you and support you, and even calls you out of the blue. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Let's go grab dinner. That kind of thing. Those are like positive investments. Where the opposite of kind of like what we're talking about with the jealousy and the envy or things of that nature. I mean, those are more like withdrawals, right? Yeah. So if the friendship kind of hits a rocky patch, and that's it's bound to happen in any. I mean, we're humans. We're not perfect, right? We're gonna mess up, maybe say the wrong thing. I know I'm guilty of that a lot. But at the end of the day, are you able to kind of take ownership of your end of things and make amends and have forgiveness in any companionship, so to be able to move forward and I mean, again, even in the face of adversity, I think a relationship or friendship can certainly grow and become stronger through that if done well.
Yeah, and when you do take a genuine interest in someone, like you talk about the forgiveness piece, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes because you've taken a genuine interest in them, and you see their shortcomings, or you see they said something that you didn't like, or you got offended, to be able to step back and take a genuine interest in that person and put yourself in their shoes and say, well, what was going on? Well, why would they have said that? Right. Am I overreacting? Is it something deeper? Is there a deeper issue there? I think if you really have a genuine interest in someone and you're able to consider them, then you're able to handle a shortcoming or something that somebody says that maybe didn't sit right, and be able to think through it instead of being reactive or getting your feelings hurt. We all get our feelings hurt, but I think, I won't talk in circles, but
I mean, that's some deep stuff, Rose. I think, when I hear that, I'm just thinking back on my friendships, and I've always appreciated when I have a friend in my life that can extend that towards me, right? When I'm on the receiving end of that, when I've blown it, done something dumb, said something inconsiderate, or maybe he was just having a really off day and wasn't attuned right to what my friend needed. Like, I've really appreciated when that friend has been like, hey, is everything okay? That seems sort of off for you, like you seemed a little off in that. And they take into account, I guess because they know me, right? There's a bond there, and they respect that bond and can draw on it from like that bank you were talking about. And, like draw from that bank and say, wait a minute, I know this guy, or I know this lady, I know that maybe this isn't the typical response that I get. I wonder what's going on here, and they'll inquire about it, or they'll be like, hey, that whatever you tried to do there just backfired.
Yeah, and I think we have different relationships with different people who play different roles. I think we've all got that friend who's more of a mentor that can hold us accountable and has built a relationship, say in sales or fundraising or anything like that, the relationship equals the ask.
Yeah.
The relationship has to be greater than the ask a lot of times. So having that friend who's your armor bearer or type of guy that can really check you, and you respect it because the relationship's there. When they say something, it's from a place of, well, I expect a lot out of you. I think a lot of you. Yeah. I think you should be on this level. You're performing on this level, or you're acting on this level. What's going on.
Yeah.
Having those relationships is, important, and every relationship's different. So, we all got people that we feel like are mentors that we're going to hear differently than, our younger brother trying to check us on something who has a bad credit score.
or somebody you've met, you've only been friends with for a short time, and that level of trust, as Josh was brought up, it's just not there, but they're trying to like check you, and you're just like, all right,
sure.
But also I think kind of what we're labeling, or I guess I'm going to put a label to it, is just boundaries. I actually heard a TED Talk, I think a couple of weeks ago, with Brene Brown, and she was just talking about it's like setting boundaries with your friends and family is actually an act of love, which I never thought about it in that regard. So, say for example, like you guys were talking about a couple of minutes ago, your friend does throw out something offensive, or like you were talking about, maybe they're kind of preoccupied and you had something you wanted to talk about, and they just kind of don't notice, or they just kind of brush it off, and it hurts your feelings or whatever. Being able to bring that up and just being bold and honest, and it's not a very comfortable conversation to have, but just to be like, hey, that kind of offended me, or that hurt my feelings, or whatever the circumstance is that ticked me off. Whatever. To be able to say that and set that boundary and say your need, and maybe like what went wrong or how you took it personal. That's actually showing an act of love, because it's preventing you as an individual from harboring resentment on down the line. Yeah. And it's and that's resentment's obviously something. It's just going back to that kind of negative piece. It's just gonna prevent you from having that vulnerability and trust that I think from a primal nature we all long for. Nobody wants to be alone, unless you're James Bond.
Yeah, we're not that, unfortunately. But I like the idea of putting parameters in place with a friendship, and I think guys probably have a little easier time with that. And I've got a friend that we're getting into doing some stuff together, and a couple little projects in business, and we were able to have a conversation on the front end and put some boundaries in place and talking, and I think that's okay. I think that's okay with your friends to say, hey, this is my limit. These are my limits in this area, and if you've done that up front, you don't have to test them naturally and come to a point where you've got to have an awkward conversation or a tough talk. If you say, hey, this is what I'm comfortable with on this, and hey, this is where I need to be at this time, and this is financially or whatever your relationship is, whatever that friendship entails, boundaries are, I think it's okay to put boundaries in up front, and if somebody's not okay with that, then up front.
Yep.
That's a red flag. Hey, but you've given them an opportunity to say yay or nay. When you say, this is my comfort level in this area, and this is what I'm willing to do, and this is what I'm not willing to do. This is my red line, that I'm not willing to cross, and that can save some heartache down the road, I think, to draw those boundaries and just be transparent. I mean, because in the end, it's reality. Living in reality from the start instead of towing the line and trying to figure it out organically. Sometimes better than sometimes better.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it's and I think to just like tack on there, and in the vein of that question of like, well, what is a healthy and what is a good friendship? I think that falls right in line with it as somebody who hears your boundaries and respects them.
Yep.
Right. Sure. Someone who maybe even asks you ahead of time. This is, when I think about a good or healthy friendship, I also think about qualities in my friendships, and I've been pretty open with both you guys as friends, as far as like, hey, there's things in you that I think about when I'm making decisions, right? Like there's something in you that I also aspire to be, and I think that's a really important part of friendships. Like Andrew has a consideration, though I know he wouldn't say it outright, but he's really good at actually considering other people's boundaries ahead of time, but also good at considering a friend's need ahead of time. And he's also really good about pairing people with each other that seem like they would be really good or compatible with one another. I think that's something that's just sort of naturally there for him, and implicit in that, in our relationship, there's been good boundaries and respect between both of us, right? Through some difficult times in both of our lives. And I mean, Charlie, I texted you out of the blue one day, but I really respect Charlie's work ethic. There's something, there's a drive and a respect that he has for people. I guess both of you guys really respect people, but a respect for people and a curiosity about things that actually mean something to someone. Like, hey, how's this? Like, how's this going, man? Or like, just inquiring into things that are actually meaningful. I mean, when you look at both of those, you see that they're operating within boundaries and even questioning, how deep can I get with this guy?
Sure.
And then you bring that back around, and those are qualities that I want to have. And so in the friendships, there's something that we're aspiring to be, right? Not just independently, but there's something in you that I'm trying to be as well, and trying to sharpen in myself. So I think that's a really important part of friendships as well.
That's a huge takeaway. That is a shame to leave somebody's strengths on the table that you're spending a lot of time with. If we spend time together and we don't gain from each other, it's obviously it's not a waste. But I mean, I feel like with both of you guys, we go on some trips, we do some things, we have some good times, and I think I always leave those times that we get to spend together, with feeling invigorated when it comes to, hey, I need to work on this, man. We talk about things that are challenging.
Yeah.
And I think surrounding yourself with people like that, it's like, I love to play golf. You want to play golf with people that are better than you at golf. It's fun to play with, you spend time with people, you see a lot of different things, but it's really fun to be out there and play with 2 or 3 guys that are just 5 or 6 strokes better than you. You're learning things. You're watching these shots actually happen, and that's the way I feel when we get to spend time together and have conversations and dig in. You leave asking questions, and you leave wanting to make parts of yourself better that I see in you guys. And I think that's important, and I think I've heard Andrew talk about that a little bit, and you may want to expand on that. The type of people you surround yourself with. Obviously, you put a rotten apple in a bowl full of fresh apples, that rot's gonna spread to the good apples, and
the catalyst,
the
social catalyst. If it's Josh, I know you're kind of proctoring this a little bit, but if it's cool with you, I mean, if we could skip down to the, because this kind of leads into actually what I was going to say about I can't even hardly see it, but the question about the negative takeaways from friendship.
I mean, it's a perfect time to jump into it. I mean, we talked about good or healthy friendships, so and the marks of good and healthy friendships, and I really think we hit some solid points in there. I had a great time. We can flip the script and say, okay, so we hit kind of softly on some of the unhealthy markers. What are the marks? What are the marks of unhealthy friendships, and how can we kind of judge if they are unhealthy? So jump into that, Andrew.
Yeah, so I think we, in having a friendship, I mean, you have to ask the question, what is this person doing with their time? So I worked with the addiction community for a while, and I mean, I think the biggest problem in people in recovery, was it's like, okay, like personally, like I want to do this, I want to, they have a whole inventory of things that's like not working for them. They know how substances like rob them of so many experiences, and being the parent they wanted to be, being the family member, the friend. They're in financial debt and all that kind of thing, but then it's just like almost like with tears in their eyes so many times, it's like, but you don't understand, like, but this is what my friends do. Like, if I stop, I'm alienating myself from everybody I know, all my friends, my closest friends, this is what they do. And that's it's tough to like look somebody in the eye and be like, okay, like, you got a really heavy choice. You're gonna have to sit with this and decide what you want to do, because you can't go back into those communities because you're just gonna end up right back where you are or worse off. So yeah, I mean, I think, surrounding yourself with people who are, motivated, who are, doing things for themselves, who have, a standard for their own life with that includes healthy goals, who, invite you into, your thoughts and, want to talk about and process. And it's kind of like what you're talking about when we go on trips and hang out. I mean, we obviously have a good time, but, we're asking each other, intense questions. We're checking in. We're, talking about the next chapter, the next phase in our life. We're talking about past failures and what we've learned. We're not trying to build ourselves up and focus all on like, I did this, this, and this. It's more, I mean, I think the more of our content, or the content of our conversations specifically, have to do with like, it's like, okay, well, that didn't work, so let's what can I learn from this? And then, and then get just listening and giving feedback. So yeah, I mean, I think that, the downfall of so many relationships and friendships in general is just, surrounding yourself with people who aren't asking those tough questions, who aren't like, hey man, like, how are you doing this week? Like you seem, like you were talking about earlier, like you seem different, you seem off. Like, let me check in with you. Like, let me, like, allow me to be here for you. Like, I'm with you. I support you, I mean, I think in pursuing any friendship, I mean, friendship, intimate relationship, I think, how does a person spend their time? Do they, are they, do they take care of their relationships? Do they invest in their relationships? Do you feel confused and just kind of drained of energy? Or do you, like you said, do you feel kind of challenged and empowered and want to learn more? And I can identify with what you were saying. I mean, after, spending some time with you guys, it's like, I want to like read books and listen to podcasts. And I'm pretty fired up. Like it gets me through the next like couple of weeks, like, having these types of conversations, versus, I don't know, it would just really be unfortunate to drain each other of those experiences. So anybody who's watching, I would definitely say ask some of those questions about who you're choosing to spend your time with, and if they're not doing well for themselves, they're not going to do well for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, we got some more people now. Yeah, when I talked to Andrew and he's telling me, the last 5 books he read, and I'm sitting here like, oh, okay. I need to up my game on the book intake. Andrew's, Mr. Self-Help, and that's something that I really admire about him because he's working on himself. And a lot of people are not working on themselves and they're going backwards. And can it be fun to be around those people sometimes? Yeah, but
they're funny.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, feeling challenged because Andrew's listened to 4 books that are in my queue to listen to or read. And he's asking me, "Oh, have you listened to such and such's new book yet?" And I'm like, I started it.
Been thinking about it.
Yeah, you said something about that 2 weeks ago when we were talking. I need to get on it. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's healthy.
And it's definitely healthy. And I think in saying what's healthy too, there's an undertone of what isn't, right? So kind of the inverse of that would be somebody who's pulling you in the opposite direction.
Yeah, let's go play video games for 18 hours and your wife will be fine. She won't care. Just
she will. Anybody wondering about that?
And I think in the mental health world too, like I see so frequently talking to my clients, or even talking to friends or even family members, like there are times when friendships may have started healthy, or they may have started in a place that was like you were both at point A and it was dark, and that's when you met, and so you were supportive of each other at that point. But the relationship was solely forged there, and maybe only on that principle, just on difficulty. And so you wind up seeing the relationship sometimes have trouble breaking free of that mold, and it's like you have to stay stuck in order to be friends with that person now. And I think that is an undertone that I see particularly in the substance abuse community. It's like, I have to have a problem in order to be a part of this thing. When in reality, you don't want to have the problem anymore.
Oh, that's a lie.
Yeah, but bingo, right? But it's a lie rationally, but within the community or within the friendship, it's a truth.
Yeah.
It's what was established. It's what's established in a substance community, right? It's like our dysfunction unites us.
Yeah.
I think that's the mark. I think that can certainly be the mark of an unhealthy friendship when you look at it and you say, well, what unites us? It's like, oh gosh, if it's dysfunction, that is a clear indicator that relationship probably isn't a healthy one, right? And you can work on that, and that can be, that can be developed. But in the same breath, you see certain characteristics that start to form, like codependency. Even codependency starts to emerge from those sort of things, and it's a constant pull on you. And so you start to see the inverse rather than being pushed forward, or like, I'm reading 4 books, Charlie. Let's jump on this thing, man. Let's talk about it next week. Like, it's this thing's happened. Can you help me with this? Can I have this from you? Can we do this? It's like it's stunted. There's something in it that's stunted is usually going to be a mark in the relationship. And that's in marriages, that's in friendships, that's in large groups of people. That's not just between 2 individuals, right?
Yeah, it makes it much harder for one person to advance and come out of something that they're struggling with when they're close friend, and when they're struggling together and they want to move forward, but you're getting pulled back, and then it's almost like, oh, they don't do this anymore. Oh, they've quit. They're better than me now, and it can drive a wedge instead of pulling somebody up with them. It makes it tougher. When you're not equally yoked on what your goals are and what you're doing about those goals.
Sure. Well, you sometimes see too. You may want to watch out in friendships for people that implode for attention. So they haven't heard from you in a while or something, and so maybe something gets dropped in to pull you in. And maybe that happens really frequently. You find yourself grounding out in that relationship, your energy, that interpersonal piggy bank, right, Andrew? It winds up going into the negative.
Almost guilted back into the relationship.
There it is, guilted. That's the word. Yeah.
I listened to something about that. It's been a couple weeks. It was something on YouTube about the friend or the person that every time you call them you have to feel uncomfortable because it's let's stay out longer. Oh, let's go. You don't want to do this? Come on, And you always feel like pulled uncomfortably into a situation that you don't want to be in to please that person, and they're, piling it on.
And that's where the boundaries really come into play, for sure.
Look, I heard, Terry Crews is the football player, retired football player, talk show host, right? Yeah, like
super jacked.
Yeah, super jacked and diesel. I heard an interview with him, and a lot of people. I mean, when you're in a position like he is as successful and open of a person as he is, guys. If you haven't listened to a Terry Crews interview, you need to find one and listen to it. The man is actually way more brilliant than his comedy lends us to believe. But he has a lot of people that come in and request mentorship. People from his old community, old friends that reach out. Oh man, I like what you've done with your life. How do I get from point A to point B? And he'll sell them up front. Like he says this in the interview. I will help you, and I will give you 1 strike. And if it hits 2 strikes, we're done. And he outlines the boundary, and he puts the ball in their court. And it's simple stuff like, if you stand me up, right? It's like fundamental relationships. Like if you don't follow through with something you say you're going to do, and if you're making excuses for him, it's if you bring. It's funny. One of his boundaries is like, if you bring people that are in legitimate trouble into my circle, we're done. Like, we're done, especially if I don't know about it. And he's protecting himself, protecting his family even. So, that is really important. That I think you can set those boundaries on the front end. And where we balk sometimes in friendships is we think we're gonna push the person away or hurt the person, and it's like, well, if that's gonna happen, it's maybe not the best fit, right? Like we talked about it in the beginning, but like if you put the ball in their court and you're actually confident in your own friendship, like they have to determine whether or not they're going to respect your boundaries, and they know the consequence, right? On the front end or in the middle end or at some point in time when you've run up against the difficulty. But again, I think the mark of an unhealthy relationship is someone who continues to breach those boundaries full well knowing the consequence. It's like, that's probably not someone you want to be around. And if you haven't established boundaries, there's no better time than now, right?
And again, I mean, just to say it again, I mean, it's actually an act of love, because it's preventing you in the long run to alienate, to distance yourself, to become bitter or resentful, because that's eventually you're just going to get overwhelmed and distance yourself anyway, and that's just going to leave the person whom you didn't set boundaries with confused and hurt. So
it's easier for him to say, don't stand me up, I'm up.
Right.
He is who he is. He's but I think that's important, because we all know that flaky person who you always say, hey, let's do this. They've always got a plan, or they always want to hang out. They always want to get lunch. They always want to catch up. And there's never been any follow through. Or maybe you've had plans a few times and you've been stood up a couple times. I mean, it's tough to meet somebody at, however people meet. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A for lunch.
Sure. I'm just, when you're in a relationship, a new friendship or whatever, it's hard to just tell somebody, hey, if you don't show up, you're going to go on strike. I think that's got to be, you have to build trust with people.
Sure.
But we all know, I mean, that's a quick way to end a friendship, is to be constantly having big plans and not following through, and saying, I'm going to do this, or meet me here, or let's whatever. Constantly having to back out, and it's just flaky, and eventually it's going to end a relationship. Or you talk to somebody that you haven't talked to in 6 months. A lot of times you can pick right up and go like you were never apart, or whatever. And you have friends that you haven't seen in years, and you can pick right up. And if that relationship was built on boundaries, and you had that relationship, it's easy to pick back up. But if it's somebody who made you feel guilty every time they called you, or didn't show up, or weren't there for you, or stood you up a lot, it's tough to jump right back in. I mean, I feel like we may go a couple weeks at a time, or even a month, where we don't really know what's going on with each other. We're not texting every day or whatever, but there's never any problem jumping right back in.
Yeah, man.
But, because of the foundation, I guess.
Oh, it's interesting you bring up that texting every day thing too, because I think you there's every friendship's different, right? But I wonder what you guys' thoughts are on when you look at yourself and think, wow, I'm being an unhealthy friend right now, right? It's like these principles certainly apply to us too as friends. It's like, and I wonder about one in particular, and that is like, how much you feel like you should or shouldn't reach out to someone, right? I think that's a question for friendships, particularly in the beginning stages, but maybe ones that you've had for a long time, and there's some distance between you, and you're like, am I reaching out too frequently? Am I not reaching out enough? Or am I doing all the reaching out? Or are they doing all the reaching out? Like, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on navigating that? I feel like that's a pretty common thing.
I would say just ask, hey, am I being overbearing? Am I asking too many questions?
Yeah.
Just let me know. I'm asking because I care. I wanna be part of your life. I wanna know what's going on with you. But if I'm asking too frequently, or maybe even not enough, just tell me.
Yeah. And we all get busy, and you maybe have a friend that's reached out to you or invited you somewhere. Or, hey, I'd like to see you at this thing, or something you've been involved in that you've backed off of, or it's tough to do everything. It's tough to make everybody happy, especially when you do a lot of networking. You know a lot of people. You have a lot of friends. Trying to please everybody is a tough game to play.
Oh, absolutely.
You probably get invited to 70 birthday parties a year.
Well, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, I could get into that, but may or may not be missing a birthday party tonight, but that's okay. But I think, what I'm saying, to circle wagon on that, like, just communicating with somebody, like, hey, sorry, I'm in a season right now where I've got to spend time on this and focus on this. I'm not going to be able to cut out the time I used to be able to cut out for that. And I think things we get involved in do go in cycles and seasons. There's something to being persistent and being able to follow through. I mean, there's a guy in Cleveland who's been in Rotary Club for like 50 something years and missed 4 or 5 times. It's so there's something to that. But at the same time, I think you have to look at how you're using your time and be able to communicate, because you don't want to just leave somebody hanging high and dry that's trying to communicate to you and reach out. And you start feeling guilty the more you don't reach back out if somebody's trying to communicate with you. We can all, it's a lot easier to text somebody than it is face-to-face conversation. A lot of times for our generation and the one behind us, obviously, too. But communication, I think, it's kind of circles back to boundaries, but communicating from that side of it that, hey, I have to spend time with my family during this time, or hey, I've got something else I've got to dedicate time to that is just, taking the place of that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I dig it. It's good stuff, and I think we got some great ideas centered around what are the markers of a healthy relationship, and what are the markers of an unhealthy relationship or friendship. I mean, these principles can be applied to really any relationship that we're talking about, but totally. When you overlay them on a friendship, it may make you gut check some things personally and with the people that you're associating with. And with that, we'll kind of shift gears. Charlie, got a question specifically for you. I'm curious if you have like an example or maybe just a concept, but about how a friendship has impacted you positively, and how or why that friendship particularly has impacted you positively. I know you kind of hinted on Andrew and I a little bit there, and we talked about each other there for a while, a little bromance going on, which I can dig it.
You guys are the only friends I have, okay?
Yeah, that's not true.
But I'm curious, man, do you have an example of how a friendship really impacted you positively?
Well, I think friendships in a lot of cases are give and take, but I think we all have those friendships that we end up taking more because someone's willing to give in a healthy way. And I would say, I'm blessed to have two older brothers that have both poured into me positively, and I think the friendships that we have formed have, brothers, family's different. Family can hurt you the most, and family can love you the most, all at the same time. But the friendships I've formed with my brothers, my middle brother's 3 years older than me. My older brother is 9 years older than me, and naturally, the brother that I've spent more time with, been around longer, is my closer brother in age, and he's really been a mentor to me, and I've been able to. It's been a guy. We've got a judgment-free friendship and relationship. It's been a guy that I can call and talk to with anything, and I know that's not everybody has that. So we can go out and seek friendships, and there are I really believe in having mentors, and I've got a few that I've gleaned a lot of knowledge from, and I think that's important. I think not wise is he who seeks the counsel of many, and I think you have to have discernment with that, and be able to cut through things that are not good for you, and be thought out with that. But I do have a few mentors that have poured into me that have really helped me advance personally and in my marriage and in my business. And I think you can have different mentors for different areas, but I think the takeaway for somebody who may be listening would be to seek out healthy mentors, mentorships, that somebody that is willing to pour into you, and eventually give back. That's important too, and we're in our we're fairly young men, so I don't know that that there is a generation we can pour into. I do believe that, and we've got some folks here at our business that I'm able to pour into, but I've certainly been able to unashamedly have mentors that have poured into me and pulled me up, and I don't think that's something to be ashamed of. I mean, I don't even, a lot of people say, well, I'm a self-made man, I did it all on my own, and maybe there's something to that, But at the same time, I don't think there's any shame in saying, hey, I had a lot of people that helped me along the way.
Yeah,
I sought out help. And, you may hear someone say, well, such and such just got that job because they know such and such, or this is their dad, or this is their uncle, or, and that's family. But, okay, well, what does that tell me? Well, I need to get to know somebody. Again, I may have mentioned, people are a conduit. And healthy relationships, healthy mentorships, you're really taking an interest in people. Again, taking an interest in people and being willing to pour into them and be poured into. When it really crushes me when somebody says, well, they were able to advance because of somebody they knew. And I'm like,
exactly.
Yeah. Yes. You got it. Get to know somebody. Get out there. Seek a mentor that's willing to pour into you. Get to know somebody, because yes, that's how good things happen. We get to know people. They want to help you. I mean, successful people want to help people. They want to see other people succeed. In most cases, that's something people take a lot of pride in, being able to help somebody, being able to pull somebody up, and it gives me a lot of gratitude when I'm able to help somebody. And I know there are mentors that have poured into me that take pride in where I'm at and what I've been able to do through guidance and relationships. So I know that didn't get very specific or personal there, but I think seeking mentors is an easy way to fight through stuff. And
I think good mentorship often, and the maybe like mentorship is a specific under the umbrella of friendship, right? And so and maybe there's the foundation of friendship, or who knows, and then that mentorship is sort of outpoured from that place. It's like, I'm genuinely invested in this person. I mean, you hit on something really important actually in there that I heard. I have a few mentors in my life as well. Having somebody who's genuinely interested in you and your success and seeing you do good things, like that is it. It's invaluable. I mean, you can't put a price tag on something like that. And man, from my perspective, it feels good to have people to thank too, right? Like if I'm going up to give an award and it's all about me, if I'm a narcissist, that feels great. I did that all on my own, but like there's something really gratifying at looking at a friend or looking at a mentor and saying, man, thank you so much for pulling through for me there. Thanks so much for helping me out there, or thanks so much for the encouragement, or thanks so much for listening. Like when you're able to thank people, it's a sign that you're actually plugged into a community and not a standing alone island, right? Like that's a sign that you're part of a community if you have people to thank. And so I totally agree with you there, Charlie. Yeah. That's good stuff. I guess within that too, like, and if you want to stay in the vein of mentorship, or if you want to go to a different friendship, or just in general, but how have you seen accountability play out well for you within a friendship? I think that's an important part of friendship. We were sort of saving for this question, but it's having somebody who's actually willing to say, hey man, like, I see you going in this direction. And that's different than like, hey, you're having an off day, what's going on, right? This is like, I see your trajectory heading somewhere that's bad for you, for your family, for your business, for your spiritual life. Well, and I see that trajectory is going to end poorly for you. Like, do you have any examples or anything that you want to like kind of cushion in there as far as how accountability can be helpful in a relationship?
Well, I think the accountability piece goes back to the relationship equaling the ask. For somebody to hold you accountable, you kind of have to have them up at a place where I've got a mentor that I really hold in high regard in a lot of areas, and discipline and spiritually, and there's a fine line between feeling guilty about letting somebody down and wanting to be accountable. I think a lot of times accountability just needs to be healthy, to where you don't feel like I'm going to disappoint this person if I do this. And so I don't think acting out of that, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but I think
it's like shame or guilt.
Yeah. If the accountability is based on shame or guilt, I think that's tough. But I do have, same mentor, same friend, I think lays down challenges to me, and I take those seriously. And somebody that has challenged me with accountability to be more self-disciplined, or do things, or pray a certain prayer for a number of days in a row, and take notes. How does that affect your life? Or just be more self-disciplined in certain areas. And I think that can be healthy when you've got somebody that you respect and you're willing to accept a challenge from, to make yourself better. And I've done that. I've answered the call, and I've come up short a lot of times too. But I think I think accountability is very important, but I think it's a tough one. Because I think it can slip off the rails into the guilt and the, oh man, I feel bad about that because I let this person down. And it all depends on the relationship at that point. Hey man, being able to call and say, hey man, I let you down on this. I tried. It's tough. I see where you're coming from, but this is what's going on, and talk through it without getting back to the judgment and that whole deal.
Yeah. I think also it has to be observing how that person lives their life, and do they keep themselves accountable. I was at a training this last weekend, and the guy facilitating it kind of gave this example. I thought it was really good. He was just talking about how he wrestled for Bradley County High School, which, if you're not familiar with the Cleveland area, Bradley County, I think it's had their wrestling teams won something like 21 state championships in the last, I don't know, since the 80s maybe. I don't know. That's a lot. And they're nationally ranked. So he talked about how his head coach ran triathlons 10 times a year probably. And the assistant coach was actually a collegiate, all-American wrestler, and also did all kinds of races and stuff. And so they'd wrestle these, other teams. And then he's just they went to this one team, and this guy had the other team's coach was sitting in the bleachers, and he was 300 pounds eating a cheeseburger, and he was yelling at him yeah, boys, go harder, but, here's this dude, obviously clearly not taking care of himself, where, he knew that his coaches weren't going to ask them to do anything that they hadn't already endured, and that they haven't gone the distance themselves. So, anyway, I thought that was a great example of that.
Absolutely.
There's a really important part of accountability too, that you just hit on to, Andrew, and you touched on as well, Charlie. I think that's it's not just the admission on your part. Okay, I let you down. That's one component. It's the other person may be pointing something out, hey, your trajectory is putting you in this direction. I think that's going to be bad for you. Those are the two statements. It can either come from the person or it can come from you, and the accountability is kind of in the middle. But I think what's really important for accountability to work well is, if you're bringing it to the table to the person, or the person is bringing it to the table to you, you're both willing to put in the work with each other to shift it. So it's not not the coach who sits on the sideline and barks orders. It's the coach that gets out there and is
it's living the lifestyle.
Yeah, this is the position you're in, and you need to you need to position yourself this way and this way. They're out on the thing, or they're like moving their body and setting the example, like willing to get out there with you. I think it's setting the example, and then also doing that with you, like actually going on that journey with you, seems pretty important.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff on accountability. Any other thoughts in that vein? Charlie, you look like you're looking something up there.
That just gets into some leadership stuff with the Simon Sinek Leaders Eat Last, talking about a leader going head first into the battle and being
lead from the front.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's with account. Yeah, that's a lot easier to follow somebody who's doing what you're aspiring to do.
Sure. Well, Charlie, I want to respect your time. Do we have maybe 15, 20 more minutes with you?
Sure.
Okay.
I've already missed the birthday party.
We can.
I think my nephew knows he's got a pretty good idea. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Are you serious? Yeah. I think I had to miss your nephew's birthday.
It's all good. He's good.
Oh, man.
He'll be fine.
Well,
just imagine having me as an uncle. Okay, he's doing good. I didn't have
He's already set for success in life.
He's one step.
Right on.
Yeah, that's not narcissistic.
I love it. Well, I've got two more questions for you, and one of them is, for the group. But before we get to that one, I actually have one that I didn't tell you about. I'm just curious if you could offer some feedback as a dad, like, and what friendship looks like with children, like with your kiddos. I know you got two kiddos. Like, how do you? I mean, I know we're both young parents, so we're trying to figure this stuff out. But maybe a good way of phrasing the question is, how do you let your kid know that you are their parent, but still show them friendship and some of the very things that we've been talking about in this? Like, what are your thoughts on that, man?
I think with us as adults, time is a currency a little bit, but money is obviously a currency that gives us options and we strive for. And I think to our children, that quality time and genuine interest shown in them is the only currency they know. I think when our kids feel like we're showing a genuine interest, we're spending time, we're playing Barbies, we're playing Lego Batman and getting into it. I think that's the only currency they understand.
Yeah.
And that's something that's tough for me a lot of times to give, and so I have to be cognitive about doing that and putting those boundaries in place to make sure that, because there's going to be times where we come home late, we didn't see our kids all day, we spend 15 minutes and it's time for them to brush their teeth and jump in the bath and go to bed, and you look up and you've spent 15 minutes with your kid, and that's going to happen naturally as we, we're working, we're trying to provide.
Yeah.
We're going to put in time and give time so we're not always going to have that balance to where our kid's getting an hour or our kid's getting 2 hours. And so I think the time we do spend with our kids, the genuine interest, the being present, the not having the nose buried in the phone, because we all do it. If you're not guilty of it, good for you. I think we all get into that some, but I think that cognitive currency being time spent showing a child, and you guys are the psychologists here. You know a little bit more about what kids are thinking and childhood development and that sort of thing, but I think it's a real difference, and I think giving that to a child, being honest with them, and to get Jordan Peterson on you, making sure that they're not doing things that you don't like, and they're living in a world where we can be honest with them,
yes,
and people can be honest with them, and people can be happy to see them when they're coming, and because we've spent time with them, been honest with them, poured into them. Man, I'm preaching to myself a little bit. I need to step my game up. Yeah. Just to be honest and transparent. But I think that's an area where I've tried and had some success, and I think it's if there's one thing you're gonna strive for with your children is that quality time spent and genuine interest in.
Yeah, that's great answers, man. Very well put too. And I think as a dad, I personally feel you on that. It feels like there's always room for improvement, right? But I want to encourage you too. Having seen you and spend time with your kids, I mean, you live that out. So yeah,
sure. Same to you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's good to see you live that out, and it's also just a good reminder for me too, and any dads out there and future dads, Andrew. I mean, there's no announcements in it or anything right now. But,
well, it shows in children. When a child needs attention, when their parents haven't given them attention, we've all seen that, and we know that child's going to struggle because of that, because of the things they do to get attention that are unhealthy, So not to stray too far down that road, but
sure. Well, we teach them how to be friends, right?
Sure.
So it's really important to be present and show them that type of consistency. I mean, they're learning how to be friends with someone else based on your interactions with them. I know there's a lot that they'll learn outside of that, and there are a lot of parents who don't take a friendship approach, right? But there's certainly qualities in friendships that can be applied to your kids, and I think you hit the nail on the head with the ones you brought up. So appreciate you answering that curveball there. I guess the last question for the night, guys. What are some ways, and I know we glanced off of them throughout the interview, but just what are some ways that you feel like we can maintain friendships well? Like what are some practical things that we can do, whether that's on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, or just a conceptual basis, like how we conceptualize friendships? How do we maintain friendships well?
Stay in touch.
Yeah.
Follow through, I think, is important.
Yeah. Don't schedule something with Chuck and miss your appointment.
Yeah.
You see somebody follow through time and time again, they're going to get some passes. Hey, you followed through for me a lot of times and been there when I needed you. Something came up. Yeah, I understand. If you're only there when we're having a good time and things are good, and when I need you, I can't find you. That kind of tells where we stand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the inverse of that, right? As if you're feeling that sort of guilt for being avoidant. It's like, well, maybe that's, we're not maintaining the relationship well on our end, right?
Sure.
It's like there's give and take there, and a lot of what we've talked about. I think one of the things that I learned from a buddy of mine, Chachi, has a local ministry here in Cleveland, and I believe that he pulled it, he sort of morphed it from a John Eldridge teaching, is the idea of fighting for your friendships. I think good solid friendships, there's actually a significant amount in our culture and the way our society is set up that works against vulnerability. It works against spending quality time with someone other than your romantic relationship, or with your kids, or there are a lot of distractions that pull you away from thinking about other people. And thinking about other people that you just don't see on a daily basis, who aren't directly in front of you. And so there's this concept of sort of fighting yourself and the distractions around you to maintain your friendships, right? Sure. I think some people take that and push their boundaries, like, oh, I'm fighting for this relationship, I'm going to do whatever I can to maintain it, right? At that point, you're breaking your boundaries. That's probably not the greatest idea. But you have to sort of fight these external forces that keep you from connecting with people, whether that's your history of friendships, whether that's a super busy schedule, whether that's really maybe a chaotic family life or a chaotic romantic relationship. Like, you actually have to fight these distractions in order to connect with a community larger than the people that you just see in front of you on a daily basis, right?
Sure.
So there's that concept of fighting for friendships too.
I'd also like to add just doing something together. And I mean, I know that sounds elementary, but it's like, maybe like not playing video games and just like watching TV with your friend or whatever. Like Charlie and I started being friends because I think we started out, we did a small group together, and then we started exercising together. And then Josh, I mean, you and I think we started out shooting guns together, then it morphed into fishing, and then just kind of dreaming about, starting Traverse. So I mean, there's like, you're actively doing something, which all the, like, every one of those things, I don't know about shooting guns, but like, I mean, all the other stuff, I mean, there's an aspect of like improvement and growth that you're kind of like, overcoming and growing and changing together, I think that's obviously a good formula. It worked for us, to be able to maintain friendships.
Yeah. I think one last thing I'll throw in there from my perspective is making sure to invite your friends into your life as well. Let them meet your partner, wife, kids. Like, bring them around. Invite them to have lunch down the street, or invite them to something. Invite them in. You know what I mean? I think that's also a really difficult thing to remember to do. It
doesn't matter if Josh and I want to be friends or not now. I think our kids are pretty much
gonna get married. I think.
So we can. I'm okay with arranged marriage. Now that I used to think that was a weird thing, and when you have kids, it sounds not so crazy. But our friends, our kids are going to be buddies, and that's awesome.
Yeah, man. It's good stuff.
One thing I'd like to throw out before we wrap up is, so Josh, you and I we met when I was in school. It was more of like a training capacity, and when my time, working under you, in training to become a therapist, kind of started to wind down. Obviously we got to know each other, and you threw out the idea of like, hey, let's we should hang out sometime, and I even remember thinking like, that would be awesome, but that'll never happen, and then because I was at the time, I was more of a pretty shy, not proactive. Like, it was something I would have wanted to do, but I knew I'd never follow up, right? And so it was about 5 seconds later, after I got all those thoughts out of my own mind, that you were just like, what are you doing on Saturday? And you even labeled it by saying, we're men, it's easy to say, hey, let's get together, let's hang out, but everybody can say, yeah, we'll do it, and then never follow through. And so, obviously doing so and recognizing that, it obviously led into a great friendship. And I think that happened like right before I actually met Charlie, and we ended up doing the small group together. And then it was after he did the small group, I think we kind of lost touch, not really lost touch, but just didn't communicate for a few weeks or so. And then you posted a picture of some Olympic weightlifting shoes on Facebook, and talking about getting into that. And generally, probably had I not met you the way that I did, or our friendship wasn't formed the way that it was, I definitely wouldn't have messaged you and been like, hey, where are you doing this? I'd like to get into that myself, and then you invited me along. And then, I mean, anyway, my point is that you have to kind of make friendships happen. There is a pursuit. You can't, I mean, I don't know how many times in my life it's like, yeah, we'll grab coffee, we'll work out, we'll do something, and then we never do. And, and that's probably pretty sad. There's probably a lot of friendships that, I've lost. We probably all lost. There is that. I was that guy you were talking about. At certain seasons in my life, that it's like, yeah, we'll hang out.
Sure.
It never happens. Hopefully, I'm not that dude anymore. But anyway,
it happens. I think we all are that dude to some people at some times.
Yeah, true story. Yeah, true story. Well, man, this was good. Yeah. We got some great material out on the table. I hope you guys took some away from this. Charlie, man, thanks for taking time, and like you said it, putting some time currency into our friendships, but also into Traverse. I really appreciate that, and I'd love for you to take a second too and just let us know kind of what EastWest does.
Sure.
And what they can, what you guys as a company can do for anybody out there. And anything else you want to sort of plug in your entrepreneurial realms as well.
No, first of all, I just want to say, thank you guys. Like I said, the relationship is there, and I'm certainly excited for what you guys are doing with Traverse and seeing it grow and kind of where you've come from and where you're going and getting to talk through that. I'm really excited for you guys and what the future holds and what I think you guys are going to accomplish, and you get to change people's lives for the better, and that's so gratifying to be a part of, I'm sure, and just getting to be part of that through this and with you guys is it's an honor. So I'm excited about where you guys are going. And as far as our business here at EastWest Digital Marketing, we started this company. My family's been in advertising for over 50 years, and we started this business based on needs of people we worked with. We got asked often who to refer people to when it comes to their online marketing needs, and it was a tough thing to do because there's a lot of one-man shows out there and guys that may be really smart and do a good job on one or two things, but it's tough to refer when somebody needs a website, maybe their SEO managed, some photography, some videography, their social media. It can get tough for businesses to put all that together. So we started this company to be a full service agency for people, where you can come to one place and we can check all the boxes for you. And we say check boxes a lot because we know in this industry, if we just check boxes, we're setting ourselves apart from the competition a lot of times, because we do what we say we're going to do. And then the creative piece and the customer service piece comes into that, and we want to do a great job for people and be strategic about their marketing plans and their goals and go at it from that angle. When we sit down with somebody, we want to talk about where they're trying to go, where they are, and what needs to change and what approach we need to take to help them get where they're going. So we are a full service online marketing agency, and there's maybe a few things we can't do, but for the most part, we can handle online marketing for most businesses, up to some pretty big businesses that we work with on different things. We do drone photography, we have our commercial license, down to websites and social media management and SEO, blogging, the whole deal. So, yeah.
Right on. Well, good stuff, man. I appreciate you letting us know what you do as well. I trust, you had an opportunity now to listen to Charlie for about hour and 20 minutes here and get a good feel for how he operates and how he functions. This is a guy you can trust, an organization you can trust, and I trust him as a friend, and Andrew as well. I know I speak for you too, and Yeah, so again, Charlie, just thanks, and thanks for the kind words about the practice too.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
I really appreciate it, and as we'll catch you next time. Our next podcast, we're actually going to be interviewing Dr. Chrissy Logue. Dr. Logue is actually a mentor of mine early in my career. She's going to be talking about women's empowerment and the culture towards women right now in America, and ways that women can navigate that culture successfully, as she has done a phenomenal job with, and even mentoring men. So that's she's a powerhouse. Really glad that she agreed to do that. So be looking out for that, and we'll catch you next time.
Toodles.
You have been listening to The Counselor's Chair, sponsored by Traverse Counseling Services. For more information, visit our website at www.traversecounselingservices.com or email us at contact@infotraverse.com. Thank you again for listening, and we hope you will join us next time. This podcast was recorded and produced by Josh Zello, and music installment is provided by Joel Harris Music.